In today's video, we're going to be talking about how real estate can make you into a millionaire. Alright, to start us off, we first need to discuss the simple fact that real estate is well and notoriously known for making millionaires. However, a lot of people really don't know why or even how real estate makes people into millionaires. A lot of the scratch of the surface level knowledge is, oh cool, we can just buy the house, rent it out, and if we need money, we sell it. Although that's a very, very good approach when it comes to a scratch of the surface level, when it comes to real estate investing, I will say that things do get a lot more complicated. Let me tell you why. So within real estate, there's pretty much three key characteristics that you need to take into account. So the first thing is going to be the price of the home, how much money does the home make you, and finally, how much is the home going to cost you over a long period of time. Now, just with those three key characteristics, you're going to be able to derive some relationships between all the three. So what does that mean? Just with those key characteristics, and when it comes to investing in real estate, you can pretty much create some type of goal in terms of what you want to do. Now, when it comes to buying a house, there's two goals that are going to be coming along with the price. Now, whenever you want to buy a house, no one wants to buy expensive, okay? So ideally, when you want to buy a house, you want to buy the house for as low as possible, right, in regards to the price. And then when you want to be able to sell the house, you want to be able to sell it at a very, very high price. So that's your traditional buy low, sell high. Super simple, right? Now, the next characteristics when it comes to the costs and the income of the home, depending on how you treat the home is really, really going to jurisdict what you can do in terms of the particular house. For example, are you going to live in the home? Because that's drastically going to increase your costs and decrease your income, because you're going to have a lot of different expenses that you need to pay for. For example, let's say when you live in a house, you now need to pay the mortgage payments. Now, that mortgage payment can be very, very different in terms of the loan details. And then you also have to pay the property taxes and also insurance, because if you burn your house down, you want to make sure that you at least get your money back. Those are the particular costs. And then on top of that, if you want to live in the house, you now need to pay for expenses such as internet. I'm very, very sure you have internet. And if you're telling me you don't, you're lying to me. So now, for internet, we have our utilities such as water and electricity. And then you have all these other little things like such as yard maintenance, adjusting some minor details, adding additional amenities, different things like that. Now, let's say instead of being a homeowner and living in the house, let's say you're a homeowner and now you're renting out the house, okay? You now cover a lot of your expenses. So internet, you don't need to buy internet for a house that someone else is going to rent out unless you're doing Airbnb. Then you don't have to pay for the utilities unless you include it on the lease contract. Now, just with that alone, that's going to save you a lot of money. And then on top of that, whenever you rent the house out, you now have income that's coming into the house, an external source of money. That is ridiculously important, because now this is how real estate makes you money in the long run, okay? So when discussing the price, it is also notoriously known that home prices are going to be increasing in regards to time. Now, how much is that? You can go and do all these different things, but I'm going to give you a rough estimate for the whole United States, and we're just going to say it's going to be 5.5%. Okay. Now, basically, when you have money and you buy a house, you're basically putting a bet saying that that house is going to be worth more than having actual cash. Because what happens when you have actual cash and you wait long enough for a long period of time? You have inflation. So real estate is a good tool to hedge against inflation. So not only when you own the house for a prolonged period of time, you are now going to be hedging your money against inflation so that you can get that 5.5% increase in terms of property values. And then on top of that, you don't have to risk losing 2% of inflation or 2% of the value of your dollar due to inflation. Now, let's just say there's a net difference of, let's say, 3.5%. So $100,000 that you invest into a house, you now have $3,500 extra every year just by owning the home. Now, keep in mind, it compounds itself and it's a percentage on the amount of the house. The more valuable the house, the more money you're going to make over a prolonged period of time. And that's just in regards to the property value, okay? And the price. That doesn't even account the potentials in terms of the rental income. Now, another place where it gets really, really, really nuanced is the cost of the home. So whenever you have a house, most likely you're going to need to buy a house with a loan. Unless you have $300,000 sitting in your bank account, nor do I even think you want to spend $300,000 to buy a house. Most people are usually going to need to take out a loan. And depending on the loan structure, you're going to have different things that need to be adjusted so that you can decrease the cost of the home. So let's just say we have a house that is worth $300,000 and you take out a loan for $300,000. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and say that you have a mortgage payment, which everything's included, principal, taxes, insurance. And let's just say that's $3,000. So $1,000 for every $100,000. So when you have $3,000 in terms of the mortgage payment and you live in the house, you basically need to supply all those costs with your own money when you live in the house. That is also on top of the utilities and additional costs that the home might occur, such as landscaping or other things like that. Things become very, very interesting when you now rent the home out. And let's just say you rent out the house for $2,000. Okay. When you rent out the house for $2,000 and you also have a payment of $3,000, that means you're at a negative of $1,000 every month. Okay. Now, one thing that you need to take into account is basically the price appreciation of the home over time. So like I said, over, let's say, a course of a year, the house value increases by that 5.5%. So now, what is 5.5% of 300,000? So when you do the math, that ends up being around $16,500. Okay. So just by owning the house, the home value increases by, on average, this is just an estimate, by $16,500. And if I said that you lose $1,000 every month in terms of the difference between the income and the cost of the home, okay, you now are going to get the expected property appreciation, and you subtract that value by the money that you had to spend that because you had to pay out of pocket to pay the house. So now what ends up happening is you are now, instead of having $16.5 thousand, you subtract 12 to account for the 12 months in a year. That ends up being $4,500 that you air quotes make over time. Now, keep in mind, although in the beginning the value is very, very low, things compound on itself. If you can get anything from this video, you need to take into account this one main factor. When you buy a house and you have a fixed rate mortgage, which is 30 years, okay, that mortgage payment has to be the exact same, okay? Property taxes and insurance, those can change because those are dependent on the current time and instance. However, your loan, your principal, and your interest, that payment is fixed and it's never going to change, okay? Now, so what does that mean? So when you take a look in the cross of 10 to 20 years, your property appreciation rate is going to be increasing because a house that is $300,000, and let's say in 2024, well, when you take a look at 2046, the house is going to be worth around, let's say, $1 million. Okay. So now your measly $3,000 mortgage payment is going to be a lot smaller comparatively in terms of what you could potentially rent the house out in 20 years from now. And that whole entire idea is a simple fact that real estate has a compounding effect, especially if you rent out the house, okay? Because you now basically hedge a lot of your expenses with external income, and you basically are paying, or you're basically owning the house so that you reserve the right to either A, continue to achieve income with the house, or you can sell the house and receive the benefits in terms of the potential property appreciation. Let's say you want to sell the house in 2044, you now can sell the house for $1 million back when you bought it for $400,000. Now, okay, cool. Yeah, you're going to basically lose money in terms of the interest. However, if you take a look at the total expenses over the entire course of the owning the home, and you look at all the income coming from the house, you can basically have an idea in terms of what that house is going to bring you in terms of your money. Now, that is just basically a very, very scratch of the surface level approach when it comes to understanding the power of real estate and how this makes millionaires. Because the thing is, okay, let's say you only get like $100 to $200 cash flowing property, okay? Just by having a house that's right now cash flowing or even going in the negative Just by owning that house for a prolonged period of time, let's say 10, 20 years, you can begin to see how that's going to compound over a prolonged period of time. And that's just with one house. Imagine when you have a portfolio of homes and you have constant cash flow income coming to your bank account. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is just a very, very scratch of the surface level when it comes to real estate investing. But this video is basically telling you how does real estate make you into a millionaire. So that is all I have for the day. Please have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later.